They're like, no, I'm sorry. Do 4 things and that'll be it.
Yeah.
If you do between 7 and 9 things, it'll be fine. Listen, John, I don't think we could have been more clear that we need 14 things done. And then I'm like, all right, so if I do 14, here's the like timeline to do that. And they're like, 14? Dude, stop trying to steal from us. You owe us 27 things. So just clients, you know.
Yeah.
Let me rotate this so I don't look. All right, fuck it.
Yeah.
What are you been up to? You getting all these podcasts going?
Yeah, we got like our harem of current clients, and then I did my first like official like public webinar on Wednesday, and 2 people showed up. One was my dad.
Dude, sorry.
And the one guy who showed up like didn't even stay till the end. So I was like, "Do I have any questions?"
Yeah. I mean, that podcast, the Anxious Filmmaker thing with Seth, it's like, this is incredibly informative. And I sent it out because I'm doing a film workshop in Chicago, virtual, and I sent it to all my students. And I was like, this is as much information as you need. So I'm surprised you're not getting way more attention for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I'm honored that you enjoyed it enough to send it to your students.
I mean, it's a big budget production, you know, with Michael Shannon. Who wouldn't want to know the details?
Yeah. 2 hours worth of details in my case.
I was listening though. I was engaged the whole time.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think like I tell all my clients, they're like, oh, how do I like interview people good? Like, are there tricks, or like, do I have to ask specific questions? And I'm like, no, just ask whatever you want to know the answer to. That's about it. But yeah, I mean the webinar, like I the only promotion I did was I sent out an email to like 4,000 kind of semi-random emails that like may or may not be relevant. They're just like various like business owner emails and like random LinkedIn connections, Gmail connections that I've amassed over the years. We did have 17 people like register. Like 17 people were like, "Fuck yeah, I'm in." 1,000%.
That's a weird like difference between people who are like, I'm going to take the time to fill out whatever form and commit to it, and then just be like, nah.
Not for me.
Are you going to be using the video for this?
Yeah, is that okay?
Okay. Then I'll like pay more attention to what I'm doing on camera.
Cool.
Because a lot of time on these calls, if the video is on and I'm not paying attention, I'm like this the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, dude, be true to you. I want the real Jon Silver.
Jon Snow. What do the men behind the wall always say? What's their
I don't know. I only watched the last season, and it was fantastic.
Okay. What? Start at the beginning, dude.
No, dude. Since a young child, I've like hated fantasy, because like whenever I tell someone I'm into sci-fi, they're like, "Oh, like Lord of the Rings," and I'm like, "No, fuck you."
Yeah, a little different.
like sci-fi fantasy, like I remember in Barnes and Noble, they were always the same. Like it was like sci-fi
Mhm.
slash fantasy, and I was like, I don't give a shit about this. Like I can't say the word that I want to say to describe this.
Yeah.
But you
No,
know
I
what?
get it. You're in the lasers. You're not in the swords.
Exactly. I'll fight you with a laser sword, but not with a regular fucking sword. Get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here.
Yeah, but I mean that makes sense. They're not going to put the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in the same category as 2001.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I mean, there's a clear distinction between sci-fi and fantasy that I
I
think some
think so.
people just don't give a fuck about. Come
Yeah,
on.
come on, people. Have a better sci-fi fantasy, will ya?
Are you picking up when I like lean in my chair? Are you picking up that noise?
Yeah, but you know, it's just it's it's a perk,
All right. I
just
need to get a
another
new chair.
authentic detail. Dude, I bought a chair off of Facebook Marketplace because I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
$50, I'll, half price. And I sat in it, I was like, this feels fine. And then I got home and I realized that the base of it, like the actual seat, was like this. And I'm like, that should be fine. And I sat on it for an hour and my neck started to like
Yeah.
seizure.
Because you're like having to compensate, right? And then your
Yeah,
neck's like, holy fuck,
yeah,
we're fighting gravity.
yeah. My neck was like seizuring. My lower back was like, bro, we're hanging by a thread. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, it looks like I just set $50 on fire.
Mm-hmm. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff. My brother didn't realize that his glasses were broken, and so they were crooked a little bit. And so he was like adjusting his head to make his glasses level with his computer, and
Mhm.
he almost had to have like surgery on his neck
Oh my
because
God.
he like spent months cricking his neck just a little bit, and then like he had like tons of pain, like it was pressing on like a nerve.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude,
So you got to be careful with that.
we are badly designed, and
Oh
and
my God.
and the operating system is maybe even worse.
I think it's like computers and chairs have
Mhm.
nothing to do with human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, this was like a fault in our evolutionary line. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not nukes and like global warfare. It's like chairs
Yeah.
and computer screens that truly are our downfall.
Yeah. I'm sitting on dirty laundry right now just to balance out my lumbar support.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go to years of physical therapy to like figure out what the hell was wrong with me. And I don't even think we still don't know why, but I'm just better. So we're like, all right, I guess just don't do all that stuff that you were doing. And I'm like, I'm still gonna do it a little.
I feel like a lot of medicine is just figuring out, all right, what did you do? Don't do that.
Yeah. Oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I every day that goes by, I'm convinced that like we know less and less about like everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like for example, one of my fancy pants doctors who I go to because I have to be optimized in every way at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I went to this doctor and he's like, "Oh, you're like," he made me take a blood test. And he's like, "Your B6 is the lowest I've ever seen in my 40-year career." And I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "That can cause severe anxiety, brain fog, chronic fatigue, like all of the things that you're seeing me for." And I was like, "I'm 35. How do I not know this until now?"
Dude, take a multivitamin.
Yeah, dude, I do.
Is it
I
is B6 in there, or are you getting that bullshit B12?
well, I mainline B12, but Now he sold me this like $65 liquid B6 that like is full of highlighter color, and it's, I mean, it doesn't taste bad, so that's fine.
Uh-huh.
And dude, I'm 5 days in, and I don't know if it's placebo, but I feel like eerily better.
That's great.
Like
I mean,
years of
yeah.
therapy were unnecessary better.
Yeah, I take B vitamins too, and I feel like I notice when I don't take it.
Hmm.
Like I feel just tired and foggy.
Yeah. But it's like I looked it up and like, oh, maybe I'm not eating the things that have B6 in them. And it's like, what foods have B6 in them? Every food that there is has a shitload of B6 in it.
Yeah.
um,
Cool. So I gotta kind of be done around 2. So I don't know how
oh yeah,
much you
no
wanted
problem.
to do about
Yeah.
uh, Blazing Saddles.
Fuck yeah, let's dive in, man. So I actually I got a lot from this. What were your initial thoughts before we dive in?
I mean, I just love Mel in general, that he's such kind of like a old Broadway kind of guy, where
Hmm.
he's like, oh, so I met so and so, we had a sandwich, we talked about our mutual friend, and so then one of the greatest comedies ever got made, because he's like, I had toast, I had eggs, I had tomatoes, I'm trying to be healthy. He also wanted to eat food the same time that I was eating food. Now we have a movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's so just organic and natural and like effortless seeming, like his entire life.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I can talk more about this if you want, but I just noticed that like he had such a huge focus on people and relationships. Like all the stuff he was talking
Yeah.
about is Gene Wilder is great. Um, you know, Richard Pryor is great. His like he loved his assistant director. He like mentioned all the producers who were
Hmm.
on his side.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't talk about like the lighting or the lens, or even like you know philosophies for how to be cinematograph. So just like he didn't pay attention to any of that.
Hmm.
It's just like the people he works with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most comedy directors, I would think that like Adam McKay or like Judd Apatow, like kind of like the tentpole comedy guys, if you were to like tell me about cinema, they'd talk more about performance than any framing, camera movement, um,
Yeah,
lighting, um, which is interesting because like I think comedy is like the foundation of everything that I love about cinema.
for me too. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, but I spend the majority of my time studying framing and camera movement and composition and lighting.
Yeah.
Because I don't like, do you consume a lot of YouTube videos that like deep dive movies like I do?
Yeah, I find that so much of the film content out there is about lighting and cinematography,
Hmm.
and then the techniques, including gear, that you need to utilize in order to get that. But I think that serves the industry of film, because gaffers and grips and ACs and DPs, that's their business, right? So that
Hmm.
is something where they're going to continually get gigs, and increasingly commercial work is trying to look more um, you know more like film, whereas a lot of the stuff that I'm focused on is like coming up with a funny situation and getting the right people in there to play those roles, whereas the film industry tech guys don't have anything to do with that. I mean, that's just not where their talent is.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also add that to explain, you can explain how to set up a light or frame a shot, and people be like, "Oh, cool, now I understand that." But to be like,
Hmm.
"Here's how to be funny," like, like I
Yeah,
don't think that's I didn't realize that until literally like this moment. But there's short of there's like one YouTube video by Every Frame of Painting where he discusses Edgar Wright's use of visual comedy. But outside of
sure.
that, I can't think of I've consumed thousands of these fucking videos. I watch, 5 to 10 of them a day because I'm a psychopath.
Hmm.
And I can't think of one outside of that that is like analyzing comedy or how to do comedy. Even like Judd
Yeah.
Apatow's masterclass, the only tip I got from him was write a scene where a guy's sitting on the toilet with a boner and he pees in his own face.
Yeah. I took that Judd Apatow masterclass too, and I think the greatest takeaway I got from that is um, how story structure, that he tries to actually just treat it like drama and then inject comedy later. That's very similar to, I think, what I've tried to do is follow the same, like, you got to have like a story arc and then put things in. I love that about Blazing Saddles too, is they had to come up with the typical Western situation, right? They had
Mm-hmm.
to be a hero, he had to be flawed in some way, he had to have like several challenges, he had to have a sidekick, there had there had to be bad guys, the bad guys had to be competing, and then there has to be like a climax where the hero uh, has an opportunity to triumph, right? And
Yeah.
then they just put in, farts and a guy punching a horse, and they, use the N word like 150 times, and then Madeline Kahn does a bunch of dick jokes.
Yeah. It's true. um,
Did you find it on Netflix, by the way?
no,
You got what?
you
You've
lied.
seen the movie, right?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
but I wanted to. I listened to most of the rest of the commentary, even with him not talking, just because it was funny and I could imagine
Yeah.
it. Well, all right. Well, I think that's a good segue to start talking about our insights from this commentary. So,
Sure.
as I mentioned before, inviting you on this segment, we listen to a commentary, write down our best takeaways that could help us and anyone listening become a better filmmaker, and then we share and discuss them. So,
Hmm.
what do you got, brother? What do you want to share and discuss first?
The thing that I took away from the Mel Brooks commentary on Blazing Saddles for sure was his emphasis on people and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That he had good relationships with writers, he had good relationships with some producers, and then he had great relationships with all of the talent. And the casting process for him, Um, he said that he was very intuitive, things like that. So for comedy, his just emphasis on like human beings, to me, was like the greatest takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not surprised to hear that about him because, like, Mel
Hmm.
Brooks just seems like the most genuine, like, friendly dude in not just Hollywood, but like the world.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I feel like, how old is he now? Like 80 something?
yeah. He's like probably 88, 89.
Yeah. And he seems like tight, like sharp as a tack still. Like
Hmm.
he makes fun of Carl Reiner for being
Yeah.
kind of dementiaed out. I remember hearing somewhere he was talking. I think it was Mark Maron saying that when he talked to Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is like, "Oh yeah, have you seen Carl? He's about 80%."
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's sad, Carl Reiner passed away, I don't know, like a couple months ago. I think maybe that
Oh
got
shoot,
lost.
I did not
Yeah.
see that. I vaguely remember that. Oh damn.
But I remember like seeing both of them on Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Mhm.
And Seinfeld goes over to like Carl Reiner's house, and Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner are just like eating soup, watching Jeopardy. They do that like every night. Like literally every night. They get takeout and watch a taped version of Jeopardy.
Wow, dude,
And yeah,
that's goals right there.
yeah. I mean, I just love watching them. They're like, they've been in show business together for 60 years, 65 years maybe. And like, they're just buddies and they just want to like tell jokes and eat soup.
That's like the sweetest, like most genuine thing, and I want that for myself
Yeah.
at some point.
I think that that's a huge thing about comedy is I've noticed for trying to make good comedy, you have to have a good vibe in the room and you have to like really like the people you're working with,
Mhm.
because not only can you be honest with them, but you're just having a good time being together.
Yeah, yeah, that seems to be the fertile crescent that good comedy comes from.
For sure.
Yeah,
Like whenever we watch SNL, I think our favorite things, just like multi-generational people, like it when the performers are breaking and like really making each other laugh.
yeah, just fucking with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, if Adam Sandler and Chris Farley were on SNL doing a bit and one of them was laughing, that made it infinitely better than if it's like these two people don't quite know each other or like each other. There's no chemistry.
hmm,
I just think that there's something in nature as humans, if we're like, not only do we like this person, but we like both of these people who are interacting
yeah,
with each other, and we can tell that they like each other.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like that comedy is the only form of art where the people have to like each other. Like, you
Yeah,
hear
pretty much.
stories about dramas or whatever, any other genre, and you find out like, oh, Harrison Ford and what's the woman who played Rachel in Blade Runner? I forget her name. They fucking hated each other.
uh, yeah, what is her name? Yeah, but
We'll call her
I,
Rachel.
yeah, I can see that working with dramas,
Yeah.
sci-fi's, just about any action. Like you don't have to like each other because that tension is more for drama and excitement, whereas smiles and laughters and pure enjoyment, that's really more like a friendly, good time relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe like old vaudevillians from 100 years ago were in business together and didn't like not liking each other, but we just don't see that in like modern films.
I really like, my gut says like if you don't like someone, you like literally can't uh do comedy together, because wouldn't you, it would just come through like that. I think that's the power of comedy, is it's like it's the straightest shot to the truth. That's why like stand-up
Yeah.
comedians are like the most important people alive right now, because no one else is allowed to actually say how we all
Hmm.
feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved when Mel Brooks was talking about bringing Richard Pryor in to like play Bart in Blazing Saddles, and they're like the executives for the studio are just like, well, he just like does too much coke, right, to be
Dude,
on set.
they called him something really funny. Mel Brooks goes, yeah, they said he was a known sniffer.
Yeah, I love their like 70s
Yeah,
lingo for it.
yeah.
They're like, oh, that guy, known sniffer.
Known sniffer. No, we can't.
Classic known sniffer.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard Pryor, man. Have you watched like any of his stand-up shows?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the all-time greats. And I
Yeah.
think that he was such a huge influence on a lot of comics because he was like one of the first guys to really be sort of raw and raunchy and self-deprecating that got away with it because like like Lenny Bruce started being like super raunchy in the 60s and they just like the media and society just destroyed him. But then like Richard Pryor was one of the first guys to really get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived long enough to have a body of work that was inspiring to others. I know like Eddie Murphy says that Richard Pryor was one of his biggest influences, and
Dave Chappelle, Tarantino.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Pryor stuff. I love like the Pryor Bill Cosby relationship. I don't know if you've ever heard or read about it, but they didn't get along, and Bill Cosby very hypocritically would criticize other guys' use of language, like swearing or saying dirty stuff about sex. Bill Cosby would criticize it, and Richard Pryor would just be like, "Tell Bill Cosby I said fuck him."
Yeah, man. Whatever happened to Bill Cosby?
Whatever happened to Bill Cosby? Well, he's blinded in prison.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so Richard Pryor got a lot of slack for being a known sniffer, but Bill Cosby did not turn out well.
No. I think in the long run, Richard Pryor might have come out on top in that comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many amazing people in Blazing Saddles who like were kind of still at the beginning of their career, but just like fucking killed it for decades. Like Gene Wilder and Madeline Kahn.
Amazing, dude. Like,
yeah.
I feel so. I have a theory, and I don't know who did it before Gene Wilder, but I think there is like a trickster god that just like takes over someone's body and just makes them like the funniest person that exists. And I think Gene Wilder had it from like sometime in the 70s to like sometime in the early 80s, and then it like transferred to Bill Murray. And Bill Murray still has it.
Oh yeah. It's funny about Blazing Saddles is so Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder were kind of they were kind of neither one of them quite got the part. Like Pryor was like the first choice to be the sheriff, but didn't get it for being a known sniffer. Gene Wilder, I think, was like the third choice for the not the Frisco Kid. I forgot his character's name.
Yeah.
But for being the sidekick. So he ended up getting it, but like I think they kind of could have been in that movie together, but they ended up like Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder doing like several phenomenal comedies together.
Yeah.
I don't know if if you've seen like Hear No Evil, See No Evil,
I've
or
never
Stir
seen it.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've not seen either. Are
They're
they're worth?
so good.
Yeah.
They're so good. Like Stir Crazy especially is really, really good. Like they're just buddies who get falsely imprisoned, and then they orchestrate like a prison breakout through a rodeo. It's really good.
Hmm.
There's several other like Hear No Evil, See No Evil is really funny. Like Gene Wilder is deaf and Richard Pryor is blind, and they get into like a classic crime caper where they get blamed for stealing coke money or something that they didn't take from the mob. So it's just like
Dude,
classic whack job.
who was the known sniffer that came up with that premise?
They were probably taking turns together.
Dude, that's what they connected on. They just they they were the 70s version of Hunter S. Thompson and the other guy, whatever his name was.
They, I mean, probably have Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles to thank for um, two phenomenal careers.
Yeah.
I mean, not in very large part, but I mean, when I just look back at like the comedies that I like, Blazing Saddles was kind of like a first for a genre where it could be a comedy, like a specific type of comedy that's parroting another genre. Like it's a Western parody,
Hmm.
but then also has that really fun style, which I do, which is breaking the world of the Western. Like there's like cowboys and Nazis standing next to each other, and they'll like they run off of the film set out of a Western into like movie theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They break the world that they spend a lot of time creating.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. They do that in Spaceballs as well. Oh,
Mel Brooks does that
and
in like every movie.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, that's like a classic Mel Brooks thing, is to like spend all his time creating like a world, and then they just like break the fourth wall, look at the
Yeah.
camera and being like, this is crazy, huh?
Was this the first Mel Brooks movie that you saw?
No, I think that probably when I was really young, I saw Spaceballs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Um,
bit more accessible for kids.
yeah, and I know because I love Star Wars, and I kind of felt that Spaceballs was in the same trilogy. I didn't. To me, it didn't like click.
It's like my third favorite Star Wars movie, I'd say.
I mean, it's just it's funnier than the
I thought it'd
comedy
be
that they.
I thought it'd be light and fun. I thought you joining the police academy would be light and fun like that movie Spaceballs, but instead it was negative and awful like that movie Police Academy.
Yeah. Yeah, I like really liked uh John Candy, I think, when I was like 5 or 6 years
Yeah,
old.
I love
Un-
John Candy. Yeah.
Uncle Buck I thought was really good, and like he was in Home Alone. So
Mhm.
I was like 6 or 7 seeing those movies as they're coming out. And I think Spaceballs was one of the first things that we had like on VHS. So then I think as I got older, more like preteen, I kind of got into Mel Brooks's earlier stuff, like Young Frankenstein,
Mhm.
and Blazing Saddles, and I really liked The Producers, his first movie, long before people even knew about it,
Mm.
or at least people my contemporaries, like because we bought the complete works of Mel Brooks on VHS after I fell in love with Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs.
Yeah. Wow. So is Mel Brooks kind of like is he like your North Star? Is he
I think that he and like he and Woody Allen and probably Judd Apatow are sort of a blend for me. Mel Brooks is definitely the wackiest. So I think that like Scarlet Pirate is most like Mel Brooks,
Mhm.
but like My Dinner in Hyde Park short is much more like Woody Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So really just like older Jews from New York. That's my inspiration.
Yeah. Are you Jewish?
Yeah, dude.
Cool.
And yeah, most of my family's from New York.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I found out I'm an eighth Jewish like 6 months ago.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, hey! And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
You know what they say about being an eighth Jewish?
What?
Not too bad. It's in the Adam Sandler like Hanukkah song. It's like
Yeah.
Harrison Ford is a quarter Jewish, not too shabby.
Yeah. I just remember oh shit, what's his name? There's a stand-up who was like, he's like, yeah, I guess I'm Jewish, but like I don't want to be anything. And like I talked to a rabbi, and he's like, well, was your mother's vagina Jewish? And he's like, yeah, my mom was Jewish. And he's like, well, then you're a Jew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of women, they don't know that their vagina is Jewish.
Yes.
They just walk around acting normally, celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
And then they get a 23andMe and it says,
whole time
it's got a little vagina icon.
Yep. It's like big news. Better start lighting some candles for your downstairs.
Yeah. Just for your vagina.
Yeah, just for the vagina. No other part of you need to worry about. I found it hilarious that Mel Brooks, I wasn't offended by it, but like how nonchalantly he said the N-word. And then how the scariest scene to him was not, any utterance of like some horrible racial slur. It was the fart scene and the punching the horse scene. Those were the scariest scenes.
Yeah. I think that says a lot about 1970s America.
Yeah.
Is like you could just pretty much throw around whatever you wanted, especially if you're setting the movie 100 years earlier. But I saw Blazing Saddles at the Music Box in Chicago in 2018 because they were doing a Gene Wilder mini marathon. And I saw it with a bunch of people who had never seen Blazing Saddles, and they were visibly shocked because of how often the N-word was used.
Yeah.
And they felt like, how could this be? How could this still be shown? And I was like, well, first of all, they are making fun of people who are using that word.
Satire, motherfuckers.
Yeah. But also, like Richard Pryor, like they thought that having him consult on it, he would maybe say like, okay, well you should use it here, but don't use it there. But he just wanted to do the horse punching bit.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor was the one who just did like bits for Mongo.
Yeah.
He just wanted to talk about farts.
Yeah. I had that in my notes too. Mel said we needed a black writer so we could literally do a black comedy, and Richard Pryor wrote most of Mango, and Mel wrote most of The Sheriff.
Yeah. I mean, that to me makes sense. I mean, from working with other writers and stuff like that, there are some people I know who are like just filthy, filthy, filthy writers. And then I'll write something that's, you know, I might say the word pussy, and they're like, "Oh, you can't say that. No way." And I was like, that's crazy. You do this filthy stuff all the time. And they're like, "Yeah, but all my filthy stuff is about dicks and balls and butts." So it's funny to me, like how different comedians, you might think that they'll have like a focus, or they'll have limits, and then it's just totally different realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, to be honest, it's like kind of scaring me, the box that we're like continuously putting ourselves in. And like
Yeah.
my kind of even more angry about the situation friends send me videos and memes about it. And one particular video I thought nailed it. It was about white supremacists and like social justice warriors, and how
Mm-hmm.
they agree on nearly 99% of things.
Do they?
Yeah. They're like only black people should shop at black businesses, otherwise you're appropriating their culture. And and the white supremacist is like, exactly, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It's terrifyingly accurate.
Yeah, I forgot, there was some comedian who described it like, we think of some of these philosophies as like a spectrum where there's opposite sides, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
like a circle. So
Yeah.
sometimes if you go just super far apart, you just end up coming right back to it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I think so. The
Blazing
opposite.
Saddles,
Crazy.
like
Crazy.
people should go ahead and watch it and accept that there's nothing politically correct about this on purpose,
Yeah.
because they're making points about a lot of the things that are like political correctness is also trying to make points about. They're just doing it by attacking it directly rather than like working your way around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also had in my notes that the only people that ever complained about their use of the N-word were white people.
Yeah.
He said he never got any complaints from black people.
Yeah. I also took note of some of the producers who had screened Blazing Saddles early.
Mm-hmm.
They thought one of the more problematic things was the Native Americans speaking Yiddish.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where because Mel Brooks plays two different characters. He plays the like governor, but then also he plays the like Indian chief who finds the sheriff when he's young, and he does this thing where he goes like "Lazim game," and then he says a whole bunch of stuff in Yiddish, and goes "Oy vey, they darker than us." And they're like, you speaking Yiddish in a movie is going to be more upsetting to like the South than all of the N-word stuff, because in the South, the N-word, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, that was, to me, that was the most like shocking thing about the difference in the times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I feel like they got the fact that this movie exists is like a miracle. And like
Yeah.
I don't think they could have made this movie like 2 years before it was made or like 2 years after it was made.
Yeah.
They had a very small window, and it's, you know, it's amazing. I think it's probably the funniest movie of all time. And
It's definitely up there.
I put in my notes that, you know, he showed it to the studio heads, and they were like, no one laughed like the entire time. There were like 12,
Yep.
12 guys in there, and they
Yep.
were like, maybe we should just bury this and, like, you know, write it off. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved what him and the other cast and crew did. They just screened it themselves for like a live audience, and the audience
Yeah.
lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
And then
That's how comedy works, man.
yeah,
You have a bad room where like you get this snowball of people not enjoying it, and that conquers the whole room. But then you have a good room where you get the snowball of people enjoying it, that conquers the whole room.
yeah,
It's the same thing with like stand up, but that happened to me with my most recent movie, Scarlet Pirate. The first screening we did, where there were a lot of people there who didn't get it. There were like a lot of senior citizens were there, a lot of people who didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And then it was outside and windy, and just, I don't think we got a laugh in over an hour. I don't think there was a
wow,
laugh.
oh my god.
Then we screened it for like a bunch of the cast, and they brought their friends, and then their friends brought friends. And I mean, it was like night and day. I mean, because there was a laugh a minute throughout the whole thing. So it's pretty, like, comedy is very, very, very much about chemistry in the audience, not just the content, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think a lot of people, like, outside of stand-up comedians, understand that. You hear it and you're just like, oh, you're just being bitter because, like, no one's laughing at your jokes, and it's like, no, like I've I've not done, I've done a few open mics, but I've not done stand-up extensively. But like, you know, I hit on a lot of women, and I do that through comedy because I think that's the thing that I'm like best at and most differentiated at. And some girls, like, you know, I'll clearly be just, you know, whatever the equivalent to like in-person satire is, and they'll be like offended or like not get it or just like look at me funny, and I'm just like, all right, well, see you later. We officially have nothing in common, and
Yeah.
you know, and that's a very small percentage. I'll say, luckily, like I would say 95% of, you know, random girls I go up to at a bar or wherever, like, they're better at improvising than I am. I'm just like,
Sure.
what the fuck? This is great. You're playing along. This is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like comedy is a lot like jazz in that you really have to find a rhythm. There's so many subgenres. Not everybody likes it. It's super important who you're involved with right now. And then you could do it in New York or LA, people love it. You could do it in some small town and people hate it.
You literally get run out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you know, if like Miles Davis was doing like cool jazz in you know, I don't know, like Dubuque, Iowa or something like that, he might get run out of town. But in like, you know, Manhattan or something in the 60s, they're probably like going crazy for it. And I think it's the same thing with comedy. It's like you know, Dave Chappelle sometimes would like do a show and totally bomb because he just, like, people were not vibing with his taking long smoke breaks, trying out completely new material, talking for an hour and a half. It's it's very much about like getting in a rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Cool. Well, I know you gotta head out soon.
Yeah,
Um,
let's wrap this up.
I'm gonna just run down all of my things that I have.
Okay.
Um, I found it really interesting that Mel Brooks was like so open about casting beautiful women and like asking to see their legs.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, dude. Like, I mean, they must have recorded this commentary like 10 or 15 years ago, like
Oh, at
well
least. Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
we were at our current level of like peak uh, political correctness.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I counted at least half a dozen moments where I'm like, oh, he would be canceled if he was anyone else.
Yeah. It's so funny, but it's still like in the context that he's describing it, I get it. You know, he brings someone in for an audition and they're like, okay, so you're going to be doing a scene where you're dancing and the character is showing their legs in a sexy kind of way.
Provocative, yeah.
Yeah, in a provocative kind of way. Can we take a quick look to see if your legs match what we need for the character?
Yeah, which is a reasonable thing to ask.
I mean, you know, in other jobs, like, you know, finance, you can't do that. But if you're casting for film, you still kind of have to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's just funny. Like in the 70s, he probably just approached it way different.
Yeah.
Than you do nowadays.
I remember I've read, I don't know, 15 books on Kubrick, and he was a bit of like a shy, like introvert, like bashful fellow. And I just remember he was casting for, it was either Strangelove or Clockwork Orange, and there's like a good bit of nudity in both of those movies, or at least there's like attractive, busty females. And he was not bragging, but just like excitedly recollecting to someone how he's like, did you know I can invite almost any actress in the world and ask her to take her top off?
Yeah.
He's like, did you know I can do that?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's been dead 20 years, right? So he long missed the Me Too stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I don't know what his thoughts were if the women felt you know, taken advantage of, but it sounded like it was coming from a place of like childish excitement. Like it wasn't like, I'm trying to hurt these people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? I'll just quickly run down the things I found interesting. He wanted John Wayne to play Billy the Kid's character.
Yeah.
Or the sidekick's character. And John Wayne was like, this is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, or read in my life, but I can't do it because it's too dirty.
Yeah, that was shocking to me that he even asked John Wayne.
Yeah. He said, if you want an alcoholic character, don't cast an actual alcoholic.
Yeah, good tip.
Brilliant.
Good tip.
Yeah. The editor said, give me a close-up in every scene and I'll make the edit work.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fascinating. I wonder if that helps with the comedic rhythm that you were talking about.
I think it's just because a lot of comedians or probably like people who approached film from a comedic television standpoint are used to being in a wide for like 4 minutes straight and then just running through the whole scene. And so the editor was probably trying to explain to him is like, for me to cut this scene well, I need something that's specifically not a wide.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, just get me something to cut to so that I can actually cut. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of comedians or a lot of like comedy people who are approaching film maybe early in their career are they're doing wide and a medium in the same basic angle. Like well, we need something totally different in order to take out the best bits and then put them together.
Yeah, it's a great point. I love that they didn't tell the theme song singer that they were making a comedy.
Yes, very important. Very important.
Amazing.
So true. You for a lot of music stuff, you really kind of have to like treat it seriously.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he said, for any absurd situation, play it straight.
Yeah.
Don't call out the freak, as we learn in improv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what else? I think that is $2.5 million budget. I thought was interesting. Oh, he had Final Cut. The head of the studio came to him and was like, "That was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. But you have to take out every N word, the bean scene, and the punching the horse scene."
Yeah.
And he goes,
And Mel Brooks
"Yeah, sure
was just
thing."
like, sure, of course. It's cut. It's gone. Don't worry about it. And he just was like, the studio exec's not going to watch it again.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do? It's out.
Well, even if he did, Mel Brooks says Final Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me with the Civil Hoax.
Mm-hmm.
The executive producer was like, we need to cut most of this movie and it needs to be a short. And I was like, okay, well, sure. I'll just told him. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It just didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best way to take film ruining notes. Just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no problem. I did a commentary, one of these episodes on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with a buddy, and same thing. The studio heads came to what's his face, who directed it and wrote it, and they were like, "This is great. You got to take out all this weird shit. That's super weird. You got to take it all out." And he was like, "Yeah, sure thing." And then double checked his contract. He's like, "Nope, I have Final Cut." Yeah. And it's like if he had taken that out, the movie would be ruined. The movie would be terrible. No one would ever watch it again.
For sure. I think studio execs are always thinking about mitigating their risk and doing just bland stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Filmmakers and artists are always about pushing their personal creative expression. And nobody goes to the movies being like, I just want something bland that has no risks taken, that is just formulaic out of the box. Everybody goes to the movies because they like something unique and creative and artistic or styled, even if that's, beans being eaten for like 2 minutes straight, punching a horse. That's why we like that movie. If they just made a formulaic Western, no one would care.
Yeah, it's gone. I wish that the studio execs would be more kind of like have a longer view of the world, because it's like,
Sure.
if you think about Blazing Saddles and how much money that's made, not just the year it came out, but the decades following it. Like I just bought, or my best friend bought the Blu-ray like 3 years ago for $30 or something. So it's like that, like taking a chance and investing in something could give you 1,000 times the return that playing it safe and like having a middling theater run and then like a drop in a bucket DVD and streaming run, and then no one
Yeah.
ever wants to talk about it again, see it again.
I remember hearing David Wayne talk about Wet Hot American Summer
Mm-hmm.
and how it had like the worst theatrical run that anyone could have imagined. Like
Yeah.
unbelievably bad theatrical run. And then he was like, well, my career's over. And some executives were like, you dumbass piece of shit. But then when it hit like video and DVD,
Uh-huh.
it like did so unbelievably well that it's an amazing ratio from theatrical to rental.
Mm-hmm.
It did like 100 times more money because people were like, oh, this is sort of this like cult wacky thing. They wanted to like show it to people and rent it and watch it at home.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens all the time where sometimes it takes like years to build an audience for a film. So I think executives should just like follow through with the films and let them be in their catalog as unique pieces.
Yeah. I just think like when you have the longer perspective, the risk is not as severe.
Yeah.
The upside is way higher and the downside is way lower.
Because studio executives don't have those jobs permanently.
Yeah.
They're trying to
Yeah.
make profit every year, and they're judged on the profit for the year. And when they're fired, they don't get it. They don't get to keep the studio.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks, everyone knows that he's Mel Brooks, even if he didn't have Final Cut. If people saw the cut that he wanted, they'd be like, "Cool, we love you."
Mm-hmm.
No one gives a shit about who is a studio executive for, I don't even know, Universal or something in the 70s. Who
Yeah.
gives a shit?
Warner Brothers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, any last thoughts on this movie? Last insights?
Yeah. Most great films start by having a sandwich with a friend.
Love it. That is brilliant. I'm gonna start to have to eat more sandwiches with friends.
Yeah, dude. Once we're allowed to do that safely, I'm gonna have 3 sandwiches a day with people.
There you go. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Fucking love sandwiches and friends. 2 favorite
Mm-hmm.
things. Hell yeah, man. So yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a Jim Jarmusch movie.
Oh
Sandwiches
yeah.
and Friends.
Sandwiches and friends. Coffee and cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do a sequel that's way better, more funnier.
Sandwiches and friends. I love it. Cool, man. Well, where can people find out about you and your latest projects, and where can they download
Sure.
Scarlet Pirate?
You can find The Civil Hoax and The Scarlet Pirate on Amazon Video. You can find out more about my projects on showpup.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for coming, man. This was
Thank
great.
you for having me.
Yeah.